go. Now we've got Michael Rectenwald, the unwoke professor. How are you?
Great. How are you, Michael?
I'm good. Can you give the audience here, because we're streaming through Libertarian in Chief. That's about 60,000. Dave Smith's Twitter. He was gracious enough to let us a platform. Why don't you introduce yourself to everyone? Who are you, and what are you working on? Let's start there.
Yeah, well, I'm the anti-woke professor, anti-woke prof, and I was a professor at NYU for 11 years, and before that, Duke and Carnegie Mellon. And, I have since gone on to become an independent intellectual entrepreneur, as I put it. And I'm doing my own work and writing books and essays for the Mises Institute. So I'm working on a book right now. This will be my 12th. This book will be this is the Reno Reset. This book will be on the Great Reset. And I'm talking about the woke capitalism, in effect, is largely the topic.
Awesome. So I kind of have it, before we get into the future of wokeism, I kind of have a general question for you. Like, I kind of call the ideological regime that we're under right now, I have a term for it, and I think it might be historically unprecedented. Progressive fascism.
That's pretty accurate, I think. We're dealing with economic fascism, and we're dealing with liberal or leftist fascism without a question, and it's an international fascism, which is why I don't use the term fascism to talk about it, because that has all the connotations of nationalism and not only nationalism but racism and etc. This is a different animal in that regard.
Yeah, they are kind of racist.
Yeah, that's true, but they don't. Yeah, they don't claim to be. At least they don't claim to have any. There's no ethnocentric superiority claimed here, except that, of course, there's the downgrading and the demotion and destruction of the so-called white contingency. But yeah, this is a fascist, economic fascism for sure. That is, it is corporatism through and through, and this collusion between the state and so preferred corporations like the big digital corporations, of course, which is the leading edge of all this. That's the communications and ideological apparatus of the state. That's how they should be understood, and they're leading the charge. And I think we can talk about what the future of this holds.
Absolutely. So let's do that. Obviously, the wokeism has overtaken the universities. It's overtaken pop culture. It's overtaken Hollywood. I was in the theaters watching the new Batman movie a couple weeks ago, loving it. Then towards the end, they just, for whatever reason, had to throw in that the big evil of Gotham City is, these privileged white males, and I just couldn't help it. Oh, it was an awesome movie.
Until then. Yeah,
exactly. Until then, and But are we doomed to have are we doomed of a future of wokeism? Is the damage done to the young too great? Are they too brainwashed? Or do you see any opportunities budding out to kind of fight back and push back against this?
Oh yeah, there's a ton of resistance against this, and this is the real resistance. Is the resistance against this this kind of racial essentialism and this extremely deleterious idea about whiteness being this evil, and it's very ahistorical. This idea that everything that's ever gone wrong with the human race has been perpetrated by straight white males. It's a cartoon version of history, and it's going to fail on the ground. We're seeing already the culture wars. Basically, they are effectively being expired. It's expiring. So it's moving into a different register now. It's moving into an economic front, and that's where I'm focusing my own energies and analysis and attempts to stop it. As it moves into the stock market, as it becomes stakeholder capitalism, as it's being called, and the the way they're driving it through the stock market with the environmental and social and governance scores, which are basically a subscription to this woke cartel, in effect. And this is a very damaging as far as property rights go, because you have basically you have a dictation to corporations on what you have to produce, what resources you can use, who you have to hire, basically anything, all the power of disposal that is typically accorded to property owners is being abrogated. And that's something that needs to be dealt with. It needs to be dealt with at a cultural level, it needs to be dealt with at an economic level, it needs to be dealt with on a political level as well. And that's where I think the Mises Caucus comes in.
Thank you so much, John and Broadfoot. I missed your first name there, but for your donations. So last question I have before I'll kick it over to Aaron here. Aaron is the host of the Decentralized Revolution podcast that we put on. I remember seeing an article from Jordan Peterson about a month ago when he renounced his position at Toronto University about how, there was one vestige left, or it seemed like there was one vestige left within academia, and that was the empirical sciences. And it seems that even that has been compromised.
Totally.
What are you seeing on that front, and specifically with the inclusivity standards and all of that in hiring practices? Because I think a lot of people don't realize this.
Right. I mean, even the empirical and theoretical sciences are actually being they're being threatened by diversity, equity, and inclusion. Which is, everything they say, by the way, these liberal or left fascists, everything they say is a euphemism for what really it amounts to. So it always sounds good, just like the socialists and the Bolsheviks made their revolutionary standards and platforms sound good, but it really comes down to slavery. So they're really attacking the real basis of science and all fields, really, such that now, and instead of competence and ability, what's being promoted is simply identity. And this is devastating, not only for the culture at large and for our knowledge base and our trust in institutions of knowledge production, but furthermore for minorities themselves, because it puts their promotions in a bad light. It makes everything look like it's based on a kind of a kind of affirmative action on steroids. So it is not good for anybody. It's definitely devastating for society, because we won't have any trust in our institutions, and we could have death by diversity in the end, because people's lives are at stake where some fields are concerned. And these fields should not be based on identity. They should be based on the fields themselves, on the actual standards of excellence. And so that's what's at stake.
We should say hi to Angela. I think you're on a layover. Is that right? We didn't think we would have time. You would be able to join us. So welcome. Tell us what's going on with you.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm on a layover in Denver. I'm flying back home after a really great visit in Kansas at the Kansas Libertarian Party State Convention. All good stuff coming out of there. I'm really excited to see what they do next year. Really excited about the momentum of the party.
Definitely want to hear the bells ringing for the future chair of the party here. So
yeah. Let's help get some people out to Reno. Let's make it happen. Let's help get me elected so that we can see this thing through. This is the year, right? Like, this is it. And it is happening. We are the embodiment of that Ron Paul gif. Like, it's pretty crazy. I'm so excited.
So while we got you, I don't mean to put you on the spot, or Aaron, fill in if she's stumped here. But do you got a question here for Rectenwald? And
actually,
go ahead. I've got one after you, Angela.
Okay. What would you like to see us do at the national level? Like, I know that
great.
You have particular interests, and you have some passion projects, and I guess really, how can we help elevate your voice and get the message out?
Well, I really not, most of my interest in the Mises Caucus has to do with having a principled political contingent which is definitely always on the side of liberty, individual rights, property rights, the right of self-determination and bodily autonomy. All these things are vital. And I think this caucus stands as the only political contingent that is solidly behind these values and that will not compromise on anything, on any of these things, because this is really the future of America is depending upon these values being thrust forward and being visible to the public, something that can be believed in, with the corruption in both parties. I mean, we basically had a president impeached because he told the truth about another vice president who's a thief. So this is where our politics have devolved to. And it's certainly neither of these parties are redeemable at this point. So it has to be the Libertarian Party, and it has to be the Mises caucus of the Libertarian Party that upholds these important and utterly essential values.
Well, I look forward to elevating your voice and your message from the national level, because I think that informing people and our candidates and people who are running on under our banner, having them talk about individualism and private property rights and the pitfalls of everything that we've seen happen in academia over the last, well, quite frankly, 100 years, but especially the last 5 to 10 years. Right. I think that's really essential. And we got to get that message out to young people before they get indoctrinated in the university system.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And then I'll add to that one of the things, that's a real shame that's happened to the Libertarian Party generally is that if you go back and you look at David Nolan, you look at the founders of the party, you look at the founding vision of the Libertarian Party, it is to be a cultural movement. It's not politics for politics' sake. It's that we've got to get the message out. We got to get people thinking about these ideas, and from that downstream will stem the votes. And if we make it, I mean, there's a video of David Nolan himself saying, it's not about ballot access. It's not about the votes. Those are goals and those are good things, but that's not the core of what it's about. So how can libertarianism infiltrate the culture? And do you see that happening?
Is that to me? Yeah. I mean, I think it can, we definitely need to, have such voices. I think my own, but also, like Dave Smith and Tom Woods and other prominent voices in the movement, giving a clarion call to the country and to the world at large about what we stand for, and to be real clear and principled on that, and to direct people to understanding why, in fact, our culture depends upon these values. That without property rights and the actual preservation of them and the protection of them at every level, what we end up with is some form of socialism. And this is very not only demoralizing, it's destructive. It will destroy the family. It will destroy basically the social organism that holds society together. That's how serious this is. It is not just economic. This is cultural, as you put it. It's foundational. It's the social structure that's at stake.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I mean, I'll reiterate the point, but I think we're in an unprecedented time for libertarianism and the ideas of property rights and individual liberty and economic liberty and all of these things. I think we're at an unprecedented moment for them to become a cultural movement. Absolutely. Again, people don't realize the extent to which Dave Rogan texts Dave and asks his position on his position on issues. You're seeing Tim Pool. He was a hardcore Trumper and he was a leftist before that, and now he openly calls himself a libertarian, a left libertarian. But he openly calls himself a libertarian, and I don't think he means left libertarian in the negative connotation that some of us might think of it. You see Patrick Bet-David having Ron Paul on. You see Michael Malice taking pictures of Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, and Jordan Peterson. You see Jordan Peterson interviewing Bob Murphy. It's all over the place now. And again, this is just the thing that makes me so excited, because this is absolutely unprecedented. And I talked to you about this on the phone, Mike. Correct me if I'm wrong, but once we do this job, this might be the first institution in the country that shakes wokeism off, and I think there's a really powerful story in that. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, really
Eric July,
libertarianism is antithetical to wokeness, and I could get into why that is, but it's largely because we are not organizing ourselves on the basis of some sort of group identity and some sort of retribution campaign against the property holders and against capitalism as such. We are, I think, firmly against political capitalism and the way these corporations, endear themselves to the state and vice versa. And this is really where the corruption comes from. And this is also the basis of, I think, the whole left's disaffection with the system, as they would put it. And this needs to be made very clear that this is not what we propose. This is not what we stand for, and that we actually are the only force to break it up, because we understand the premises that are behind all this, and that wokeness is a corporatism. It's a way of favoring cartel members in the business community and also in politics and in our social lives as well. It's a way of canceling out non-abiding, non-woke, non-leftist orientations. And it's devastating socially, it's devastating economically, and politically, it's totally enervating. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much what I'd say about that.
I want to jump in here and say that I think that we need to make sure people understand that to differentiate us from when you hear culture, a lot of people think, oh, conservative Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
And as libertarians, we're not trying to craft a culture to make it be a certain thing. We want culture, society, family, all these different aspects of society to be left alone, to be what they are, as long as they are conducting themselves peacefully. And so we don't have a vision of, like the conservatives, the boomers will say, they want the America of 1950. Some of that's nice, some of it's not. But as libertarians, we don't want the state to try to subsidize things that couldn't survive in the culture on their own. And we don't want the state to join with corporations and academia to do this. We're quite willing to let society evolve on its own without trying to make it something, because we realize we don't have the knowledge to do that right. We're fighting the people who have a specific vision and want to herd everyone into that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we will be rejecting wokeism at the national level after I'm elected. And it's not because it's reactionaryism from the left. It's because wokeism is a state and, well, I guess cathedral, for lack of a better term, agenda that we're not kowtowing to. We're not going to be pressured by the state. We're not going to be pressured by corporatism. We're just going to be bold and principled libertarianism. And if that is controversial on its own, then we're going to lean into that controversy, and we're going to have self-esteem when we go forward with our message. And for anybody who's like feeling, oh, I don't know, we should be sensitive to the needs of people. Rejecting tyrannical wokeism is a very compassionate and courageous thing to do. And we're going to do that because so many people have been bullied and socially ostracized and crushed by it. And really what we're doing is we're carving out a space for them politically and saying, you're welcome here. I don't care what your sexual orientation is. I don't care what your whatever, like, we're libertarians and we don't expect you to do this, that, or the other because of, whatever you've got going on in your personal life. Let's just band together and celebrate, private property and Austrian economics and be politically literate and not worry about whatever, colors are on your t-shirt, things like that. Like, that stuff has no place in our party.
Indeed, I think that's right, because I think it's very, if you really understand wokeism correctly, it's a totalitarian movement, and it is state-driven, and it is about total control. And as Aaron said, we're not trying to create a particular culture. We're not cultivating a particular idea of culture. Rather, it's about stopping the interventionism, stopping the state and even corporate interventionism into our society, and to have a space for civil society which is not politicized. To actually, to my way of thinking, libertarianism is largely anti-political in the sense that it doesn't want the politicization of every aspect of our lives.
Absolutely.
That is a point that Jeff Deist really harps on a lot, and it's true. You know, the more that you politicize society, it's the more that you divide society, because that's what democracy does. It appeals to the lowest common denominator, makes them fight over power, and then hate each other for those two differences. I think that's my father. Thank you, Dad. But that's what it does. It just by incentive puts us against each other. And now we're mixing cultural differences in with political differences, which is basically throwing fuel on the fire of that division, to where people hate neighbors that they don't know. You know, like the days of well, you know, the person that made the pencil, you know, might have been somebody I hate, so but I don't care because it's a market need, is like they're trying to end those days. You know, the kind of that purity that comes with the markets, and it's highly destructive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's exhausting. It's just exhausting to constantly be litmus tested by everyone around you. And are you woke enough? Are you this enough? Did you give to this cause? It's just like, please let me just live my life. You know, I don't usually say things like I want to be left alone, because sometimes I feel like it sounds a little bit abrasive, but really that is the best way to say it. Like, just let me go about my business. You know, I want to vote and I want to be free, and otherwise I just want to, you know, do my own thing. Well, guys, I'm going to drop off here because I've got to go on quite a trek.
Statements?
Quite a trek. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for donating. You are changing history. This is going to be the first major political party reform in a very long time, and I think it's really unprecedented. So thank you for being a part of history. Thank you for helping us make this a principled organization, and I'm super excited to see so many of you in Reno.
We're going to do to the Libertarian Party what Ron Paul couldn't do to the Republican Party. It's a much smaller party, but it is something nonetheless, and it's going to give us a base from which to build. And again, we have this unprecedented opportunity, and we can build from there. So thank you, Angela. Can't wait to go to Reno. Can't wait to vote for you. Can't wait to see the masses of people at that convention vote for you. Michael, we're coming close to the end of our time here. I'm going to be, tell us about your books and your website, and what can we look forward to from you in the future? I know you're doing some courses for Liberty Classroom as well as the Mises Institute, right?
I have some courses up on Liberty Classroom on cultural Marxism, in effect. I'm writing a book now. It's my 12th. It'll be on the Great Reset, but I'm going to take a really analytical, not hysterical approach to this. Just what it means, what it would do, what economic effects would it have, what social effects would it have, and I'm just putting the information out there. I'm not an activist. I'm basically an analytical thinker and scholar. So that's basically what I'm doing. It's michaelrectenwald.com is where you can find everything. I do writing and interviews and so on and so forth. Everything is at michaelrectenwald.com.
And I just put that out in the comments, and we can look forward to seeing you in Reno, correct?
Absolutely.
Hey, Michael, I wanted to say real quick, I'm glad to see you're doing well. I know you had a really tough bout with COVID a few months back, and I was really worried, and I was praying for you. And
thanks so much.
I'm really happy that you're here, and keep up the good work.
Thanks so much. It's great to see you guys. Thanks so much, guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right.